Welcome to the latest Motley Fool scoreboard. I'm Anand Chakabaloon. We've got longtime fools Keith Spites and Carl Teal giving a 1 to 10 rating to the most well-known gene editing company, CRISPR Therapeutics, ticker symbol CRSP. Talk about the business first, including factors like industry and competition. A 10 is invincible. A 1 is hopeless. Both of you have 6s. We'll start with you, Keith.
All right. Like I said, I'll give CRISPR a 6. On the positive side, this company has an approved product on the market, Casgevy. It also has a promising pipeline with a couple of CAR T therapies. Also has some other experimental CRISPR gene editing therapies that are in clinical testing. However, it's going to take a while for Casgevy to reach its commercial potential. CRISPR Therapeutics has to share the profits for this drug with its big partner, Vertex Pharmaceuticals, so that dilutes how much money the company will make off of this therapy. Also, it's going to take a while for CRISPR's pipeline programs to potentially, if ever, bear fruit. So I think a 6 is the appropriate rating here.
Yeah, I agree with the number. I mean, if anything, I'm biased even a little below 6, but right there. And the only reason for that, Casgevy is a great product clinically speaking, and it should be successful. But it's been a slow rollout. The companies have been, Vertex and CRISPR have been a little disappointed in the speed. I really hope they can still get there, but I keep being sort of haunted by a comparison to Bluebird Bio, which is a company that got approved the exact same day with a product that, there's not a lot of daylight between those two products in terms of how well they work. And, and Bluebird is also seeing some uptake, but it's just that company has a $75 million market cap. They are priced to go under. And so that just, there's just so little confidence in them. And the gap between those two just kind of concerns me a little bit. I truly hope that Casgevy is a big success because it really should be.
Yeah. Let's talk about management. A 10 is Warren Buffett. A 1 is Homer Simpson. Carl, you're at a 6.5. Keith was at a 7. Why the 6.5?
I think, I'm sort of capping these because companies that aren't profitable yet, you can't say how effective management is at that sort of part of the business. But Samath Kulkarni has, he came in as the chief business officer before the Vertex deal. So I'm sure he had a hand in that. And I think the Vertex deal is going to be key for them. And he's made some tough decisions, including doing some layoffs right around the time they got, or a little before they got approval in preparation for a launch, which I'm sure wasn't popular, but, kind of willing to do the tough stuff.
Yeah, I went with a 7 here. Any management team of a biotech company that manages to shepherd a therapy through the entire clinical development process and then go on to win regulatory approval, they're doing something right. And I think special kudos are warranted for CRISPR Therapeutics' management team and getting the very first CRISPR gene editing therapy to market. This is a technology that has been hailed as the biotech discovery of the century, and this company's management team managed to get the very first CRISPR product on the market. So I think a 7 is warranted.
Financials time, a 10 is a fortress, a 1 is yikes. Both of you have given 5s. Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about CRISPR is they have quite a bit of cash on their balance sheet. The concern I have really is that, they're burning cash and they are going to continue burning cash for quite a while yet before Casgevy can be profitable and other pipeline things can come along. And the only sort of wrinkle I'd put on there is that they are the junior partner to Vertex, so they get a 40% share. And that's good in that they only have to pony up 40% of the costs, but you've got a company with very deep pockets that are sort of leading the charge in how to commercialize. And it concerns me there's a little pressure on CRISPR to spend a lot of money there in line with what Vertex wants them to do.
Yeah, Carl and I are on the exact same page here. The good news is CRISPR Therapeutics does have that huge cash stockpile. At the end of the latest quarter, they reported over $1.9 billion. That's a lot of money for a small company like this. The bad news is that the company, like Carl said, is unprofitable. And as I mentioned earlier, it's going to take a while for the company's product, Casgevy, to live up to its commercial potential. So I think those are big dings against CRISPR Therapeutics.
Keith, let's move on to valuation. How well will CRISPR stock do over the next 5 years, and how safe is it? 10 is a sure thing, 1's a lottery ticket.
This is a tough question. I'll guess that CRISPR Therapeutics could deliver 10% to 15% gains as Casgevy picks up momentum and the company's pipeline programs advance. The tricky thing here, though, Anand, is with how safe that growth projection is. A double-digit average return is definitely not a sure thing for CRISPR Therapeutics. I don't think it's a lottery ticket either, thanks to the potential for the company's approved therapy. I'm just splitting the difference and going with a 5 on safety.
Yeah, I said I went a little lower than Keith. I said 5 to 10%. I do think that CRISPR is priced with a reasonable amount of optimism, and again, particularly in contrast to, say, Bluebird, which is priced with absolute pessimism for a fairly similar product. If you assume they move towards $1 billion in sales ultimately for Casgevy, then they're at a pretty decent price to sales multiple right now, just anticipating that. Obviously, there could be upside from that. And I will point out that they are looking at ways to make this an easier product to use, including a completely in vivo way of doing it, which would be a game changer. Obviously, the pipeline can completely change the game there. But I do have some concerns given the experience of other companies in the gene therapy space. I think of BioMarin basically throwing in the towel on Roctavian for hemophilia. And so, I gave them a 4 for safety. I do have some concerns.
Time for everyone's favorite Top It. Keith, is there a company in CRISPR space that you like better?
I'm a relatively conservative investor, and so I like CRISPR's big partner, Vertex Pharmaceuticals, better. I'm getting less adventurous as I grow older, so a profitable, well-established company like Vertex, which also has strong growth prospects, is more up my alley.
I've been pretty literalistic about these questions. So, I tried to stick to the gene editing space. I like Intellia a little better than CRISPR in the gene editing space specifically, just because they've put out better data in vivo, which is where you're giving CRISPR essentially like a drug, as opposed to ex vivo, where you're taking people's cells out, manipulating them in a lab, giving them back. It's a much longer sort of customized process. Intellia has its own issues, and a lot of stuff could happen. And CRISPR obviously is working on in vivo stuff, but I just think Intellia has shown a little more than them there.
Well, thank you to both Carl and to Keith. They've given CRISPR a low overall score of 5.5 out of 10. Maybe that's surprising, given the relative prominence in the investing community, but you heard the reasons. It's not a slam dunk by any means. Look out for a new scoreboard every market day at 7 p.m. Eastern. Next up is BridgeBio Pharma. Till then, Fool on.
All right, that timer made me very tense.